So, hey everyone, it's Melissa, and this is Abigail Reno, who is an amazing voice actor and has narrated the first Murder in Devil's Cove, the first book in the Book Magic series. And then she's done the novella Secret on Rum Runner's Lane, which is always a tongue twister for me. That's Cassie's story. And we're just talking about getting things squared away to begin the Murder at Sea Captain's Inn, which just came out. I'm just so in love with how you've done these books. I listened to quite a few narrators and requested to listen to more because nobody was really quite fitting the bill, in my opinion, for what I wanted Pippin to sound like. And then I heard you, and I was just like, yes, that's her. It's perfect.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear. Thank you.
And I feel like we have this now. We're talking. This is the first time we're meeting face to face, but you just shared your Lord of the Rings tattoo with me, which I love. Can you share that?
Yeah, definitely. It's the original cover art from the first edition of the books that Tolkien drew himself.
That's amazing. That is so cool. So I feel like we have this little connection,
yeah.
since Tolkien plays such a big part in the books.
That the initial sample script that I recorded for the audition had the bit about Pippin and Gray's names in it, and I remember reading that and thinking, oh my gosh, I have to get this job. I want to narrate this book so bad. Cool.
That's so cool. I love that it sort of fell together like that, came together in this way that's, kind of meant to be like we're meant to work together, which I love.
I have a background in theater and classical voice. I was a music major in school when I was younger, and I studied opera and choral conducting, and I taught children's choir and
wow.
Studied theater as well. And then I dropped out of school and decided I didn't want to be an opera singer. Yeah, and I had kind of segued from theater and wound up studying opera and thought, I don't know how I got here. This isn't what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
Which, it's amazing, but it wasn't for me. But I still, my heart is in performing and theater. And then I tried, I've actually lived in LA 2 different times pursuing film acting and theater down there. Couldn't stand that either, so I decided I really wanted to do something with my that employed my vocal and acting skills, but that I could do from anywhere. And with voice acting and then audiobook work, you can record literally anywhere.
How did you come up with that idea? Were you aware of it, or it seems like it's just blowing up now with indie publishing and indie publisher or indie authors being able to contract themselves with voice actors and take their books to audio. Yeah, where did that direction come from?
Yeah, so an actor friend of mine who's also a voice actor, he was starting to get into audiobook narrating and voiceover work, and he had started a podcast just kind of as his own project to just to be creating his own work where he was narrating American short fiction. And he kept telling me, hey, you should do this, you should do this. And I would say, oh, yeah, eventually. That sounds like good idea. Yeah, it sounds like a cool idea eventually. And then after he started his podcast, he asked me to guest narrate on it a couple times, and then it was kind of like, well, now you have to do it. You have to get a microphone and you have to start recording now because you're going to be a guest on my podcast. Inside of closets with foam taped to the side and homemade soundproofing. And now my partner built me a little recording booth in our second bedroom. But yeah,
is it like going into an old phone booth like you're on Doctor Who or something?
Kind of, yeah. I have Christmas lights inside. That's how I light it.
Oh, but that's cool.
And you walk in and it just sounds that's the deadness of sound in there is really trippy. Like he doesn't like going in there because it like trips him out.
Oh, really? Is it made of, is it wood? Is that how he built it?
It's like wood, and we actually used old mattresses that we got for free off Craigslist.
Oh, for the soundproofing. Do you actually, well, so no, you don't have the physical book because you have like a PDF or do you have it on the computer or do you print it out?
I have it on an iPad.
Okay.
So my recording setup is my computer on the side with my audio interface on it, software, and then I have my microphone in front of me with a music stand that has the iPad on it that I'm reading off of.
Do you have to rehearse before you take on a project? And I ask this because I've done recently 2 chapter readings, just, you know, recording and putting them out there for various reasons. And I find it very challenging and I mess up a lot. And I've had to go in because they're video recordings too. So I have to go in and like make cuts and stuff to, you know, I've learned to just go, okay, and keep going. And then I can go in and, you know, and fix that little section. But I'm, you know, when I'm not reading a whole book, I'm just reading a chapter. So I can't even imagine doing this with a whole book.
I mean, I don't practice before recording. I mean, you know, because that would take twice as long. I mean, it already takes a very long time.
Yes.
But the more you do it, the better you get at it for sure. I will definitely go through and so that I know the plot line and I know the characters and I'm familiar. And if there's any words that I don't know, but I definitely will have days like if I'm extra tired and I'm having a hard time focusing, like my mouth just cannot speak straight. There's a lot of stopping and starting again. If I mess something up, I will go back and erase like that sentence or something and start over. It's called punch recording. So then I will kind of punch in where I left off and start again. Definitely are times where I've had to record like some kind of tongue twister sentences sometimes where I've recorded them like 5 times or more and gone back and I just can't get it right.
Yeah. I get that because pretty much every time I try and say the secret on Runner's Lane, it gets twisted up. I don't know. That was a dumb title for the book, I think. Maybe since I can't even say it.
Only if you were trying to read it out loud.
Yeah, which I just need to not say it ever. You gave Pippin just the slightest sort of North Carolina Southern accent, which was perfect because I didn't want her to be too Southern, but just have that hint. And then Cassie actually is from Oregon, so she didn't have to have an accent. But I'm curious, are accents hard for you to do? My daughter can slip into a British accent just like that, and she's brilliant with Australian. She missed her calling absolutely with theater. And I absolutely cannot sustain any kind of accent. So I just admire you so much for being able to maintain that throughout a whole book when it's not your your normal accent. So how hard is that?
Well, it depends on the accent. That one, for some reason, is so easy for me. I think also because you know the timbre of my voice is so relaxed and kind of low for those books. I could record in that accent all day long. And it just is so mellow and easy for me to slip into. But then other ones, you know, I was trying to, when I was in the middle of recording the first one, I had to record an audition for a different book that was a country accent. Like they didn't specify where exactly, but they said kind of like Texas country.
Mm-hmm.
But because I was in the middle of recording Murder in Devil's Cove, I kept slipping into a southern accent, and I
Oh
had
yeah.
the hardest time recording in an actual like more country kind of Texas accent.
And it's interesting because every region, I mean, we lived in Texas for 10 years, and a West Texas accent is very different. I couldn't even begin to do that, versus East Texas versus South Texas versus Dallas, and you kind of don't even have accents. But Mayor of Easttown was a new show that's on HBO, I think, with Kate Winslet.
Oh, Kate Winslet. I read an article about that, and I really, really want to see it because I love her. She's one of my absolute favorites.
So good. It's a murder mystery
I heard she was phenomenal.
show. Yes, but what was so interesting to me, she's British, right? And I've heard her do American accents and everything, but this is a Pennsylvania accent. I was like, oh my God, I tried and I can't even do it. It's just on a couple little words. So I would be so curious to revisit this next time we talk to see what you think of that.
Definitely, yeah. That's on my to watch list, mainly because I love Kate Winslet so much. But I read there was something, I think it was in the New York Times, and they said she absolutely killed it with that accent.
Do you kind of work through sounds like elongating your vowels or making rounding out sounds and stuff? It's like, is that how they teach you to do that? I don't really even understand what that means, but I kind of.
Yeah, and also like placement of the sound. Certain accents you speak more towards the front of your mouth, and certain accents are in the back, and like, so it's all like placement and like nasal tone and things like that. Yeah, and then the elongation of the vowels. And I also love Irish accents, which there's so many variations depending on where in Ireland, but
well, you'll have to practice up because there are just a few lines that need to have an Irish accent in the new book. Yeah, because Jamie's mother comes to visit, and so she just flips into her little bit of brogue here and there.
Awesome. Oh, that'll be so fun.
Yeah. This one isn't technically cozy mystery, like has a little cozy element to it, but I write.
But I wouldn't classify it as a cozy mystery.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't either, but it has that, the bibliomancer gives it that sort of cozy element. But I mean, I also write actual traditional cozy mysteries, and I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I like my own very much. There are a lot.
You're actually a good writer.
Oh, well, thank you. Been so fun listening to each of the chapters and going through the files as you've submitted them. And so it's just been a cool process, and I wanted to explore that with you. So thanks for taking the time to talk with me.
Of course. Anytime. I'm really happy to. And like I said earlier, your books have been such a treat to narrate.
Oh, thank you so much.
Love reading them regardless. So.
Well, that's a compliment. So thank you so much. I love listening to your voice. You just hit it spot on.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll be working together again soon with Murder at Sea Captain's Inn. So I'll be submitting that. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Good night.
Ain't never needed Poppy's blessing, no. You need keep working just to get it though. I know she carried your whole world, but when it fell down they blamed everybody but themselves over and over.